The hate is never ending for Stellar Blade as many Game of the Year nominations are coming out, and of course, I can agree and disagree that this game can be the Game of the Year, but when you're associating failures of the titles like Dragon Age Veilguard and multiple other titles that have flopped with the gaming player base, then I have to criticize your judgment because that's exactly what we're seeing with IGN as it releases its Game of the Year nominations. And what you're looking at is a Dragon Age Veilguard nomination over Stellar Blade. And this is just showing the hate that we're seeing from the social media game journalists that are out there right now, where they're putting their foot down and they're refusing to name games that actually garnered a larger fan base and interactions from people that truly love games. And we're propping up political activist messaging machines like Dragon Age Veilguard over high quality games that are coming out from developers that are passionate about game making. And that's the anger and frustration I have with some of these award nominations. Of course, I don't pay attention to them actually for gaming advice or consider them actual justifications of what the gamers want, because this is a program that is sponsored and funded by game developers and gaming magazines. So I have no consideration for what they perceive as a high quality game. And you can see that with the IGN Game of the Year Awards nominations, where it becomes obvious it's not about the games, it's not about the quality of the game, and it's not about the game players themselves. It's about what they perceive is the best messaging for the products that are coming out nowadays. And I think when you see Dragon Age Veilguard listed there with other incredible titles like Black Myth Wukong, like Helldivers 2 and Astrobot, then you understand, okay, this is not even about gaming right now, because those games are high quality. Those games actually deserve a nomination. But when you have Balatro, a card game, and you have Indiana Jones, The Great Circle there as well, a game that is being praised. I don't know if it's bad or good or not, but from what I'm seeing, it's not anything stellar. But this is just showing the biases that we're seeing right now within the gaming industry, where things are being nominated because they have the messaging, they have the support, they have the right people hired by those companies. They did get the proper DEI rating from these large investment banks. So that's where their nomination is coming from. And I think that's the thing that we're seeing right now in the gaming industry, where DEI focused games are mixed in with quality titles. And it just shows the actual foundation of this progressive idealistic philosophy that has overrun the gaming industry nowadays, where it's about high quality hires that actually know what they're doing in video game production, and you mix that in with people that have no idea what they're doing in video game production and are there for their activist messaging. You can see this happening to the game awards themselves, where you have high quality games like Metaphor ReFantazio right next to Indiana Jones, The Great Circle, right next to Dragon Age Veilguard, right next to Balatro, these games that don't deserve to be there. And I know people like Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. It's an okay game. I played it. It's not terrible. Besides the almost race swapping and the Killmonger cut design of the main character, but it was still a quality enough game. But there's at least 10 games better than that game that should be there over it. And I just started playing Infinity Nikki. It's a great game. It's fun. I don't know if it's fully there, but I give that a pass. The game is fun so far, so I'm enjoying that. So I don't have any heavy criticisms of that, but you can obviously switch out 5 games that don't belong here and replace them with either other games that do belong there. And I think Stellar Blade is one of those games that should be there, but it's not there because it's going against the grain of what we're seeing in the video gaming industry politics-wise. It's not a game that's catering to what the progressive activists that are inside these video gaming companies. It's not following the developer's script, where you're supposed to have female protagonists, they're supposed to be LGBTQ representative, they're supposed to be conservatively dressed, they're supposed to have these gender, racial connotations in every single aspect of the game, and it's not supposed to appeal to the male audience at all. And that's what we're seeing with Stellar Blade. It's doing the opposite of that. It's garnering every audience right now, specifically the male audience and the female audience, doing something that happened in video games for the past 20 to 30 to 40 years since its inception, where you have attractive, strong characters that are likable, which seems to be the opposite of what we see in the gaming industry, where your main character is supposed to be hideously unlikable and annoying to play as. And I think that's the opposite of what you get with Stellar Blade. You get a likable female main lead character that is enjoyable with great combat and overall appealing, attractive figure. And that is against the grain in the modern day video gaming industry. You can just look at all the characters that they have out right now. You can just look at their basic form for representation for female lead characters, and you compare that to some of the models and face actors that they have representing these characters. You realize it's an imperative to uglify and masculinize a lot of these characters in gaming and remove some gender-related aspects of feminine qualities. And you can see this happening with the character models that are being represented in gaming nowadays, where we get this uglified model that is just not representative of even the models that are even posing for these characters. I think this spreads even further than that with this incessant clinging to racial politics that we see all throughout the gaming industry. I think Dustborn is the best representation of that, where we see a character so hung up on racism and gender politics that the game is lost from the gamer base, because the gamer base is just not interested in those political connotations. We just want to play a fun game, and they lost the sight of making a fun game because they're lost in their own political machinations. And you see this even further with comparisons of Japanese and Chinese game titles with American titles, where the character profile, the character makeup is just made to be unappealing because they want to remove this gendered reality of a lot of these characters. They want to remove some of the things that are appealing and attractive, at least in the feminine side. And that's the gaming industry today. It's a combative place to be, where everything is related to your political alignment. And I think that's what we're seeing with Stellar Blade right now. Stellar Blade is in the mix of this political dichotomy that is breaking out in the industry, where if you're not on the side of the developers, you're not inside in the investment banks that are focused on gender trends related to LGBTQ representation, then you're not going to get your nomination. And I think that's what these award shows that are sprouting out nowadays. They're there to manipulate the culture of gaming, because in the past we had game awards, but no one took them serious. No one really cared about these game awards because there's so much magazines and so much entities saying what was game of the year. We didn't care. The game player base played the games that they loved, and they worked through word of mouth and sales to actually represent what is the actual best game of that year. And I think that is the thing that we're seeing trying to be taken away from the gamers nowadays. Like Hogwarts Legacy was the best game last year because it sold the most and most people played that game. And I think that's what we have to see here. Black Myth Wukong sold the most, and it's game of the year for that. And I think now we have to put into perspective what games actually had impact on the culture. And that's why I say Stellar Blade has to be represented. It doesn't have to win the game of the year, but you have to put it there because it moved the culture of gaming. And I don't think we're seeing that with most of the game awards nowadays, where it's not about what moved the culture of gaming. It's about where you want the gaming culture to go. And I think that's what we see here with the IGN awards. Of course, most people are not going to pay attention to it beyond this. I just want to point out this discrepancy that we're seeing in the market so you can be aware of it, that these game awards are hijacked and built on the foundation of pushing what they want to see as popular games. And I think that's why you have Balatro, that's why you have Dragon Age Veilguard, that's why you have Indiana Jones, The Great Circle, that's why you have Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, even though I know it's an okay game. But that's why it's there. It's there to represent and uphold the people that are within line this political ideology. That's why you even see Silent Hill 2 there, because it's not a bad game, but it's there because the Bloober team has developers that represent the ideology that they want to see in gaming, that purport this progressive ideology that's focused on gender, racial biases. And that's why we have these nominations here where only a few games are there because they're good games. Of course, Legend of Zelda is there because it's a good game. Of course, Metaphor Fantasio is there because it's a good game. Black Myth Wukong as well. And of course, Final Fantasy VII and Helldivers 2. Me, I don't think Final Fantasy VII was that great of a game, but I can see other people loving it. So this is that situation that we have to be aware of, that these award shows are not there for the gamer. I don't think they ever really were there for the gamer, because the gaming industry has been successfully captured by these progressive ideologues, and we're seeing that push of that culture with the massive failure of Dragon Age Veilguard put at the forefront of the gaming awards. This is a game that got a 9 from IGN in comparison to Stellar Blade that got a 7. And we see this happen with a lot of titles where Dustborn, all these other titles are getting 7s, and Black Myth Wukong is barely getting an 8, and it's making rounds as one of the most popular games in the history of gaming. And this is where you get that discrepancy between gamers and social media games journalists who are not there for the games. They're there to push their ideas. I think we have that even more reflective in what we're seeing in the gaming industry with these award shows and with Stellar Blade in general, where Stellar Blade is being put in a way where it's being criticized like much other female protagonists in the past, like Lara Croft, like Bayonetta, like 2B from Nier Automata. Stellar Blade is doing the similar rounds that we saw with previous strong female protagonists, where they're labeled as evil misogynistic designs for losers, and now they're championed as feminist icons. And I think that's what we're seeing now with Stellar Blade, where it's in that criticism stage where it's going to be lambasted incessantly for 10 years before the developer is captured and pushed in the direction that these progressive ideologues want it to be. Then it'll be seen as a feminist icon. And I think that's what we're going to see in the future for Stellar Blade, if we keep these people that are in power at these game awards and these social media gaming journalist sites in place. These people are there to capture the industry. And we got to make it clear that they're not the voice of the industry. Much like Elon Musk said, you are the media now. And I think us gamers are the media now. And we got to take control back from these game awards and do something of our own, saying what games are the best. I think the best way to do that is through sales. And I think buying these great games that we love, propping up these companies, making sure that they're beyond reproach from these organizations. And I think we may have the beginning of a solution here. Just don't buy the games that they like and buy the games that you love. And that's just my idea of what to do, but maybe you disagree with me. Tell me what you think. Are the haters still circling Stellar Blade? I think that's the case with the Game Awards, but who cares about any Game Awards? Play the games that you love and let these other games that are sinking into the sand of time disappear, because that's what we're going to see with Dragon Age, Veilguard, Dustborn, Concord, and all these other titles. Those titles will disappear. A few years from now, we'll get a Stellar Blade 2, and I think that is the greatest claim to victory as gamers can get. But you tell me what you think about the situation. I like to hear your thoughts. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.